Good evening. I'm very pleased to be here. I have known Lindy a long time. She's really a smart and good researcher, and when she asked me to, often you decide what to do to come out on the basis of who asks. That's a judge or an indicator of my regard for her that I'm here. Although I must say I have regard for the organization that's invited me as well. Let me say that I'm going to speak, I hope informally. Indulge me as I try to deliver this message, and then we'll have lots of time for give and take. But if you are enraged, provoked, or want to stand up and cheer in a kind of unrepressed way, and you just can't control yourself, I urge that you do so. There is I understand that the town manager is in the room. Is that correct? I have a suggestion for him, as I didn't arrive with great ease. And it may be that I'm wrong, but it may be that one road needs attention with labeling. One road that I can identify. But that brings us to the point, and that is perhaps the community is having difficulty finding the resources to have its road signs maintained and prepared. So I segue into the topic. I'm going to talk about really three things. One, what I call the visible crisis in state and local government in America. Second, what I call the invisible crisis. And third, as I believe, in especially audiences of people with a practical interest, some remedies that I think are fundamentally important to sustain the current system of government in the United States, because I think that, in fact, the invisible crisis has to do with the character of our decentralized federal system. First, the visible crisis, and let's connect some of the dots. I'm sure a lot of you who are, because you're here, you're attentive citizens, and because of that, you probably know a lot of the examples that I'm going to raise from reading the press or attending to internet news, something. Today, I'll go off message immediately and say, today I had to get my parking tag at the college, and when I presented myself for the parking tag, it turned out that I had an auto registration that was 2 years out of date. Now, the reasons for that are unknowable, as the car is indeed registered. But the fundamental point was that the young man at the desk said to me, just go out and take a picture of the tag on the front of your car, you know, the little thing you paste on your windshield. And I said, how am I going to achieve that? He said, well, just take out your phone and take a photograph of that. And I said, my phone takes photographs? So those, which I learned immediately to do, because soon the undergraduates will appear and getting a parking tag will be a 2-hour line. So the point I'm making, of course, is that some of you, it's not obvious, that some of you get your news by reading the internet. I get it from reading the newspaper. So nevertheless, I hope you're getting it. Let me give you some examples. I was just reading one issue of the New York Times as I prepared. 48,000 state and local jobs lost in the month of July. That was one headline. A federal appropriation of $26 billion to avoid further teacher layoffs and help cover state and local health care costs. So another emergency federal appropriation upon which, and I heard that Massachusetts is going to realize several $100 million from these funds, and New York is going to realize for education just under $600 million. Hawaii closed its schools last year for 17 Fridays. That is, there was a 4-day-a-week school in Hawaii. Now, Hawaii is an interesting state because it has a state system of public education, not a local system, unlike all the other states. So the entire state closed its schools. And this is at a time where most of us are concerned, many of us are concerned, that we don't have our children in schools enough hours or enough days, as we are still following a rural model for elementary and secondary education. Clayton County, Georgia eliminated its bus system. So people who have to ride the bus to work have to find other ways to get there. Colorado Springs shut 1/3 of its street lights. And when people in Colorado Springs were interviewed, they said that some people said they were fearful of walking out at night because there was less light on the streets. So we have these examples, and I'm sure we could find some in local communities where the stress arising from the most recent economic difficulties that we face in the United States has reached local government. There are insufficient resources for service delivery, and after making whatever economies could be made through managerial adjustments, those services have been, in many jurisdictions, radically reduced. On the way over here, I was listening to the radio, and I learned that Springfield, Mass. Is projecting a $3 million shortfall because its tax base has dropped $800 million from peak, and that will be the consequence, that the tax base will be reduced to that degree. Then another headline that we read, what's been called, is beginning to be called the benefits war in America, as several states are seeking ways to reduce benefits for people already retired. Usually not reducing their current level of benefits, but reducing the rate of increase of benefits. Now, this has not been achieved yet in anywhere in the United States because there is, the courts have determined, wherever it's been tested, that there's a contractual obligation to meet commitments. So these U.S. constitutional protection. But if you read the Wall Street Journal, you are attentive, you will have found that the Wall Street Journal has suggested that the average pay for a state and local government employee in the United States is just under $40 an hour, and the average pay for a private sector employee is just over $27 an hour, in an all-in basis, including benefits and direct compensation. So the Wall Street Journal says that the people who are working for government make a lot more when you calculate benefits and salary than people who are working in the private economy. Now, there are different points of view about that as we do direct comparisons on the basis of age and direct comparisons on the basis of education. It mitigates the advantage of public employees as compared to private employees. But the argument is that public employees who used to accept lower levels of compensation in return for security are now achieving higher levels of security and higher levels of compensation as well. Again, sometimes a little story brings the point home in a way that statistics and abstractions don't. I was talking to my friend, my very closest friend in the world, owns a box company, makes packaging for manufacturers in the Northeast. And he has 3 children, one of whom is a teacher of Spanish, and he has several grandchildren. And so he went to visit his daughter, and she said, well, they were talking about how they were getting along financially, and her husband's a teacher. He said, well, we're in for a 4% raise this year. And her dad said, well, that might not be the best thing in the world. There are a lot of people who aren't working, and the raise might stress the school district to the point we'll have to take work away from some people so we can give raises to other people. And his daughter said, but Dad, it's contractual. And what we found, and in fact, in my world, in the world of the university, and I say this as a person who joined a labor union when they first began to represent professors in the state university, the union has decided that it's better to have people lose their job than it is to have the contract, any provision of the contract suspended, so that we are having